According to traditional science, or inductive empiricism, a good deal of evidence is collected and analyzed before conclusions are drawn and scientific explanations are formulated and confidently presented to students and the public as what science says about something. When scientific explanations about something are really grounded in a considerable body of evidence, then new discoveries tend to simply confirm the prevailing story, or require some slight adjustments. However, if new evidence comes along that requires that a story be completely rewritten, then you know the previous story was not really a scientific explanation after all, but an imaginative speculation, hoping for some confirming evidence. Like many in Western civilization, I have read and heard for decades that the Enlightenment's new evolutionary nature stories were based on evidence that was so solid and comprehensive that it could not be denied by reasonable people, and was considered to be a fact for which no further proof was needed. On the subject of human origins, the science community has long dismissed what the Bible says is religious mythology, with some boldly portraying the real story as humans gradually evolved from the first single-celled life form all the way through an ape-like common ancestor for which there is now no longer any missing links because evidence for hundreds of intermediate human ancestors have been found and continue to be found. And I took all of that in as a trusting college student many years ago. However, when I became interested in the Bible, I came across Paul's comment to Timothy to avoid the irreverent babble and contradictions of what is falsely called knowledge, for by professing it, some have swerved from the faith. So are there ideas out there being promoted as knowledge and even science that are false and do not represent reality, but have effectively caused many people to abandon faith in God? With a little help, I began to realize that what is portrayed as science and knowledge about nature is often little more than philosophically driven secular cultural dogma, with a pretty high baloney content. The two comments cited earlier about human origins came from professors of psychiatry and genetics, not exactly experts in physical anthropology. A little further research led me to realize that the protozoa to people story was not nearly as overwhelmingly evidence-based as those boys were portraying it. In the 1968 Time Life book, Early Man, I read that the modern apes to humans story first appeared in books written by some big names between 1863 and 1871 without a single piece of supporting evidence. After accumulating a good deal of information on the evidence for alleged ancestors collected since those first books were published, I was not surprised to find an expert in 2021 admitting that the picture continues to be nothing like what the non-expert cheerleaders continue to assert. When you look at the narrative for human origins, it's just a big mess. There is no consensus whatsoever. The human evolution story based on a few ape species currently alive is missing much of the bigger picture. The same was true for the notion that life arose from inanimate matter by natural processes alone. Between 1868 and 1871, several big names were asserting that early life was very simple, the result of a fortunate combination of chemicals, either in ocean floor slime or a warm little pond somewhere. However, in the 140 years since those assertions, nobody has observed that happening in nature, nor has anyone repeated it under laboratory conditions. In 2011, the Scientific American ran a story in which it was admitted that geologists, chemists, astronomers, and biologists are as stumped as ever by the riddle of life. Well, as I investigated these things for myself, I began to realize how many more of the Enlightenment's big stories to discredit and replace biblical ideas were also still filled with a lot of uncertainty, and a little evidence created major problems. And I'm talking about big issues like the origin of the universe, origin of the solar system and planet Earth, Earth history and uniformitarian geology, the origin of life, the diversity of life, and human origins. That realization helped me to make sense of something I was seeing all too often. Lots of articles on many topics in which some new discovery indicated that scientists had been wrong, or that this new evidence would require a complete rewrite of the current story. Apparently, previous stories were not nearly as well grounded in evidence as the public had been led to believe. The number at the top of each page is the year the articles were published.
But what's happening these days in cosmology verges on the bizarre. Astronomers have come up with one theory-busting discovery after another, hinting that a scientific revolution may be close at hand. At stake are answers to some of the most fundamental questions facing humanity. What is the origin of the universe? What is it made of? And what is its ultimate destiny? New observations have smashed the old view of our universe. What now? Scientists go from certain to shaken, more questions than answers on the universe. We thought we had star formation mechanisms pinned down, but according to new observations of two star clusters, it seems our understanding of how stars are born is less than stellar. This discovery may turn our understanding of star-forming regions on its head. This distant explosion could upend scientists' understanding of how the universe's brightest, most energetic light is created. A dazzling fireball that ended its cosmic journey over central Alberta, Canada, could change astronomers' understanding of how the solar system formed 4.5 billion years ago. Substantive uniformitarianism, an incorrect theory, should be abandoned. Methodological uniformitarianism, now a superfluous term, is best confined to the past history of geology. Methodological uniformitarianism was useful only when science was debating the status of the supernatural in its realm. It was useful for those who, as Lyell, needed a guide to combat what we now consider unscientific notions of divine intervention. The fact is, the doctrine of uniformitarianism is no more proved than some of the early ideas of worldwide cataclysms have been disproved. There are simply too many uncertainties developing in the geological sciences to continue teaching the doctrine of uniformitarianism in the classical manner. Our seas may have arrived much earlier on our planet than previously thought. The planet formed as a wet planet, with water on the surface. That's the conventional story of the inner cause creation, anyway. But according to a new paper published online this week in the journal Earth and Planetary Science Letters, that story is impossible. To the surprise of scientists, the chemical makeup of the moon rocks is distinctly different from that of rocks on Earth. This means that any theory on the origin of the planets now will have to create the moon and Earth in different ways. The moon could have formed in just a few hours. Volcanic eruptions on the moon happen much more recently than we thought. The truth about dinosaurs. Surprise! Just about everything you believe is wrong. An avalanche of new evidence has completely transformed scientific thinking about dinosaurs. New study changes our understanding of the fate of the dinosaurs. The ancestral family of the horse is not what scientists have thought it to be. The find kind of upsets the entire evolutionary tree. Once we realize that deep time can never support narratives of evolution, we are forced to accept that virtually everything we thought we knew about evolution is wrong. Small but remarkable fossils found in New Zealand will prompt a major rewrite of prehistory textbooks, showing for the first time that the so-called land of birds was once home to mammals as well. A fossil fish has been identified as the missing clue in vertebrate evolution, rewriting a century-old theory on how the first land animals evolved. This new fossil proves that features of land-living tetrapods evolved much earlier in their evolutionary history than previously thought. These specimens have drastically changed paleontologists' current thinking regarding evolutionary dynamics and the way the biosphere functions in the aftermath of a mass extinction event. Sponges are getting squeezed out of a distinctive role in evolution. A new study says they don't represent the oldest branch of the animal family tree, after all. It is one of several new finds that could rewrite how scientists understand fish evolution. The result of these findings is a radical revision of long-held views of evolution. How man began. Fossil bones from the dawn of humanity are rewriting the story of evolution. The conclusion of a recent paper requires a change in our fundamental thinking about human evolution.
Yet, despite more than a century of digging, the fossil record remains maddeningly sparse. With so few clues, even a single bone that doesn't fit into the picture can upset everything. Virtually every major discovery has put deep cracks in the conventional wisdom and forced scientists to concoct new theories, amid furious debate.
The new discovery is yet another reason why paleontologists are reconsidering some of their ideas about why the earliest humans stood up. Discovery rocks human origin theories. Paleontologists have discovered a new skeleton in the closet of human ancestry that is likely to force science to revise, if not scrap, current theories of human origins. If their assessment is correct, these findings require fundamental reassessment of models of human origins. Paleontologists have generally agreed that there was just one hominid line. Now that view is being challenged. This means we will have to rethink the early past of hominid evolution.
Stone tools show that early humans lived in northern Europe 700,000 years ago, much earlier than previously thought.
If the new finding is real, it pushes the advent of walking back 30 million years earlier than any previous solid finding.
The conventional view of human evolution, and how early man colonized the world, has been thrown into doubt by a series of discoveries, suggesting that Africa was not the sole cradle of humankind.
This older skeleton reverses the common wisdom of human evolution.
Awash in fresh insights, scientists have had to revise virtually every chapter of the human story.
They represent a new species of human that could overturn some deeply entrenched ideas about the origin and evolution of our genus, Homo.
Nearly everyone in the scientific community thought that the date of the Homo naledi fossils, when calculated, would fall within the same general time period as other primitive early Homo remains. We were wrong. When you look at the narrative for hominin origins, it's just a big mess. There's no consensus whatsoever. It is clear that a human evolutionary story, based on the few ape species currently alive, is missing much of the bigger picture.
And we wonder why so many people are desperate for some larger meaning to life, stable moral values, and some hope. Well, there's nothing wrong with finding new evidence and changing your understanding about something. However, doesn't it seem a little odd that evolution stories have been arrogantly portrayed for over a century as the only possible explanation, established fact requiring no further proof, without any weaknesses, and only ignorant religious idiots fail to embrace them. But then how often a single piece of evidence is said to ruin the current story so that it needs a complete rewrite?